Hey, gang, this is Carl White broadcasting from the secret studios here at the Mortgage Marketing Animals. And you're listening to Loan Officer Freedom, number one podcast in the world today for loan officers, based on downloads and your great reviews. We really appreciate that. And I'll be your host here for the next 15, 20, 30 minutes, something like that. And you're listening to the right episode if you want to learn a little bit more about the DISC profile. And probably most have heard of that. And a few are going to go, what the heck are you talking about? Well, here to kind of clear the air is a good friend of mine, Jay Niblick, out of you're like last I heard, you're floating off the coast of New Jersey out in the middle on this little island where there's like goats and chickens and things like that. Who would have thought something like that exists off the coast of New Jersey? How you doing, Jay?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. So where exactly are you located at?
Coming to you from Cape May, New Jersey. So just the
Cape
very
May.
lowest end tip.
Yeah, very nice. So and not to be confused with the Jersey Shore, you're on the good side of it, like the down south, if I remember right. You saying?
It's just more laid back, typical kind of culture down here. So
Yeah,
we love
good
it.
for you. Good for you. Yeah. You're right. The right place when you're at the airport. You see roosters going across. All kidding aside, I was at the Key West airport, and literally in the airport, like at the gates, there were roosters walking around
Yeah.
inside the airport. Isn't that crazy?
We were just down there a little over about 6 weeks ago, and they had to actually hold one of the planes off because there was this giant lizard. They were, all the crew were running around trying to capture this massive, like 4 or 5 foot, 4 foot lizard. It was just out there in the middle of nowhere. And they're like, you got to hold the plane off. We got a lizard crossing the path. So
Yeah.
we love that.
Well, Jay is the co-founder of wisehire.com, wisehire, WIZE, wisehire.com, which is a service that I personally use for helping to find my talent, both in the training company that I own at Mortgage Marketing Animals. And also, I think everybody here knows I'm a branch manager, one of the largest branches in the nation. And WiseHire has been my little secret weapon for, I've been using you guys probably, I don't know, 5 years or something like that. How long have you been doing WiseHire, Jay?
9 years this year. So you guys are at least 5, if not maybe 6. We've had a great relationship with you guys. All your people have been wonderful. You guys have been great for us, actually, because you are so prolific, and the amounts of clients and angles that you get from all of your vast network. You have fed us idea after idea that you actually probably see in the process right now, in the dashboard, where you have that outside view, and you've had 20 people that you have coached say, hey, why can't you do this? And so it's been a big benefit for us too.
Yeah, well, I found it's good for Carl to hang out with smart people like Jay. So that's always worked well for me throughout my career. So we're going to talk about the DISC profile. Tell us a little bit about give for somebody who goes, what the heck are you talking about? What's a 30,000 foot view of what the DISC profile is?
DISC profile is a behavioral assessment, right? Some people call it personality, but that's kind of this ubiquitous term that doesn't cover anything. So it's a behavioral assessment. Stands for DIS and C as the dominance, influencing, or interactive, stability, and cautiousness or conscientiousness. It depends on when. It's created by Dr. Marston at Harvard many years ago, and his wife. Interesting background there. That's the couple that invented the lie detector and the Wonder Woman character. So, fascinating couple. But they created a model, not an assessment. So the DISC that we use is actually a combination of 2 assessments. There's a DISC behavioral piece and a values or a motivational piece. Okay. I wrote the DISC index that we use. That's my contribution originally to the company, is my interpretation of the DISC theory. And what it basically does, like any good assessment, is help you understand those intangible parts that drive performance, motivation, satisfaction, engagement. You can see the resume. You can see how they behave in an interview. Resumes are like the brochures from Ford, right? Or Chevy. You're going to write it like a salesperson. Interviews are great, but people can sustain, especially salespeople. And there's an old saying, right? Sometimes the last thing a bad salesperson sold was themselves. They can maintain that for an hour, but when you get good, accurate behavioral assessments or assessments in general, it helps me understand where they prefer to work, how they prefer to work, what's naturally a talent for them. And knowing these things help me make better hires and actually lead them better too.
Yeah. We found the lovely Mrs. White, myself, actually my whole family, we took the DISC profile, which is very enlightening. I recommend it very highly, not just with your team members, but with your spouse or your mate. My kids, we all took it, and it was interesting because it was like after we took it, number one, reading my own helped me understand me, and when I used to call myself names when I'd lose my keys for the fifth time for the day. Reading the DISC profile was like, oh, well, that's why I do that. And here's the answer of what I need to help me from doing that. And frankly, forgive myself a little bit, understanding that I've got talents in some areas. It's just not keeping track of the keys. And not that we can't put things in progress and process for that. But it was very enlightening to see not just my work team, but my home life. So let's dive into a little bit from the mortgage side. Like how can a loan officer, or I guess any business person, use DISC profiling, like to decide who to delegate tasks to? So like I'm a loan officer, and we figured out for the longest time, the one thing that holds most loan officers back from writing more loans is they themselves, a loan officer, is wearing three hats: the HR hat, the hiring hat, the processing hat, the chasing conditions hat, and the sales hat.
Yep.
How can we use the DISC profile to start delegating out that task so I can spend more time closing loans?
I think in your last statement, you probably said the most important concept that could ever be understood and grasped when it comes to using any kind of an assessment: DISC, Big Five, you name it, right? It's people tend to be raised to think, okay, we're in school for 18, 21, however many years, and we're taught that the best people are the ones that are best in everything. And people assume the most successful people have a long list of things that their strengths are, and a very small list of things that they're weak at. And that's not true. We actually conducted a 7-year international study, big empirical study. And it showed statistically significantly that the best performers were the ones who did exactly what you just said, which is, one, they understood themselves, which most people don't. On a 0 to 10 scale, the average level of self-awareness was a 5.5. So I meet you on the street, I go, Carl, what are your greatest strengths? That's when that person starts thinking, well, I'm the top performers in all the industries we studied. I swear they had a laminated card in their back pocket with like the top 5 strengths, and then you flip it over and it says, here's the things I suck at. But I want to elaborate on the difference is whether I'm using it for hiring or leadership or self-development, knowing those things first, and then doing exactly what you said, which is school teaches us, well, I stuck at math, I guess I better become an expert at math. I'll ignore English. I'm already good at that.
Yeah.
Forget the fact that I need to sell or lead. I got to become really detail oriented to run the spreadsheets because I don't want to afford an accountant right now.
Yeah.
The best performers, Marshall Goldsmith, who's an executive coach to the Fortune 500, gave me a quote for the book that said, Jay, there's a lot of things I suck at. I just make sure I don't have to do them to be successful. And there's the big difference. Most people go, I suck at these things. I better get great at them. I better fix where are my keys. I'm going to make my success dependent on making sure I never lose my keys. And the best performers go, I need to outsource that. I'm never going to be great at keeping track of my keys. I'm saying DISC, I'm a low C like me. I'm not very organized. I'm a high level guy. Don't get into the weeds and minutia. So instead of spending all that energy trying to become something I'm not based on my natural neural network, right? I'm 54. It's been growing. The weeds in my brain have been growing this way for over 54 years. I'm not going to untie them. So take it for what it's worth. Know what your strengths are. So that comes to hiring too. We hire somebody and say, hey, maybe you're not great at this. No, it's not about learned knowledge or skills. You can develop all of those things. But taking an employee and saying, well, but I'll teach them how to be more organized. I'll get them to think more logistically or strategically, or I'll get them to come out of their shell and go be comfortable selling and pitching. And if it's not a natural talent for them, it's not going to work for them. It's not going to work for you. And everybody's just going to end up unhappy.
Yeah. It's funny you say it. It reminds me of, I was talking to somebody the other day in the car business. Was very successful. And a local dealer. And he said, the stupidest thing that any sales leader does is they get their greatest salesperson and turn them into a sales manager.
Yep.
He says that does two things. He says, number one, you probably got an incompetent sales manager, because somebody that's great at sales doesn't mean they're great at, managing.
Usually not.
And number two, you just lost your best salesman, and he said, it's just a special kind of stupid to do that. And it goes into not knowing, just because somebody's a master in one area doesn't mean anything to the other. How can we use DISC profiling, which, by the way, I want to clarify. So with you guys, WiseHire, which is wisehire.com, actually, if you go to wisehirefreedom.com, you'll get a couple bonuses that you guys help us hire people. So I tell you, hey, I need this person. I get on the phone with one of your hiring coaches. They help me put the ad together, what I'm looking for. And then you guys blast that ad out to a bunch of different platforms, like Indeed, and all these different platforms. And when I get the applicants back, I don't just get their resume, I get their DISC profile too, which is why we're bringing this up today. But I think a lot of people don't understand the power of the DISC for people that might already be on our team. How can I use DISC profiling to improve my team morale and motivation for the people I already have? Is there parts of the DISC profile where it says, well, this group is motivated by this and this is motivated in a different way? How does that work?
Yeah. And so that combination of assessments, right? There's two, right? So there's the DISC model, and then there's Dr. Spronger and Alport, Vernon Lindsay, Rokeach. They all studied motivations. So we've combined those two into a single instrument, but it does look at 4 DISC behaviors and 7 motivations. So when you understand that, not only in the hiring, like you talked about, we've gone out and studied thousands of individuals in a different role, let's say loan officers, and we looked at performance and found the statistical correlations and said, what I was just talking about, the people that are using us, they don't want to become experts in psychometrics. Yeah. They want to make good hires. So instead of them having to try to develop those strengths, we do it for them. So when you do get that resume back, you get a rank ordering of, do they have the same tendencies as the best loan officers we've seen, or transaction coordinators, or administrative assistants, or any outside sales, whatever, car sales, and excellent through poor. And that prioritizes you. Once you're in the dashboard, though, there's a team link. You can go to the team page in your dashboard, and you can give that same assessment to everybody on your team. And it prints out this 1-page big graphic. You can get the individual reports for all of those individuals as well. And how that helps is I can see everybody on the team in this big square, and it's got the D, the I, the S, and the C in the corners. And I can see where they're all plotted. And I can see, wow, this, like the sales team and the ops team are clustered over here, high DIs, and the ops team is admins, and all of the other people are high SCs. You can see the distance and how far apart they are. And you can look in their individual profiles and understand team dynamics, communication, and collaboration. The 2 C's are what we normally see the biggest benefits. How do I communicate better with this person? I'm a low C, they're a high C. They want to talk 30 questions, tons of details, and take 3 days to think about it. I need to appreciate that, because I want to go 3 bullets, 5 minutes, let's squeeze the trigger now. And so by understanding how polar opposite 2 people are, they can start to come to meet in the middle and understand, I need to slow down a little bit because I want to go 90. They need to speed up a little because they want to go 20. And so at least we're kind of, compromising. Page 22 in the report has a page called Communication Do's and Don'ts. And it basically is the only page written for others, not me. And it literally, I pass that around to everybody else on the team, gets a copy, and I get a copy of everyone else's. And it kind of acts as a primer for when I walk in that door and say, okay, wait, I got to remember, I'm going to come in hot. The blip just hit the fan, go fix it. Oh, wait, I better think about who is it that I'm talking to? What's my audience? And maybe I can mitigate some potential, clashes of personality. How do I work better with them? And then also in delegating, do I want to go find somebody who's just like me, who can't find their keys ever because I can't either? Well, that's not going to do any good. That's not a strength for them either. So who on that team in that big square would be better off being primarily responsible for these duties and these tasks? And I'd make sure I don't give it to somebody for whom it's going to be just as big a headache. The product's probably not going to look as good and not going to get the results that anybody wants.
I'll never forget the time. This is not that long ago, probably about 3 years or maybe 4 years ago, that Diane, who I've been blessed to work with for the last 25 years, give or take, here in my office, an amazing lady. We were meeting one time. I can't remember what we were talking about, but I'm looking for that fast decision. And I said, Diane, just make a decision. Let's just go with it. She said, Carl, it's not that I can't make a decision. Just somebody here needs to have more information before the decision's made. And that really struck home to me. I went, she is exactly right. And I think, I can't remember if she said it or if my own head said it. And by the way, when somebody's working on the jet engine, you want them to think about something. You want them to have more input before they just flip a quarter and go with A or B.
Yep.
And so for the right things, for some things we do need to make fast decisions, but for a lot of things, we need somebody to, play that role of, well, wait, let's get some more information before we get, before we make a decision. Can we also use the DISC profile to help identify and resolve conflicts within a team? How does that work?
Yeah. I mean, I think, just highlighting what you said, I want to reinforce it real quick. That's the beauty of having a diverse team. That's the importance of having that diversity, right? If everybody you hired was just like you, you'd all have the same blind spots.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'd probably rush really fast and really efficiently off the cliff.
Yeah. And get nothing done. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm. As far as potential conflict, one of, not the only source, but one of the primary places where interpersonal conflict is created is drastically different behavioral personalities. So the behaviors are observable. These are the things that you and I see on the outside. When I observe you, I'm observing your behaviors. Other assessments and psychometrics go way deeper, get into more cognitive aspects, but behavior is observable. If my behavior is drastically different than yours, I conflict. And the phrase that I always teach is, I interpret, if there's anything you write down from this, I interpret others' behaviors through my own emotional filters. So if I don't know your DISC, if I'm not stopping to think, maybe you think differently, I assume you're like me. It's one of the most common human conditions. I assume everybody sees what I see, and that's the same perspective. If I'm a very high DI, right, outgoing, extroverted, talkative, emotive, I get all excited, and I'm in front of a room full of people, and the guy in the front row is a low I, which is not extroverted, very introverted, doesn't express their emotions, placid. Mm-hmm. I look at that behavior and I interpret what emotions would I need to have on board to act like what I'm seeing. Now, for a high I salesperson, I'd think, I don't know, the guy talking, me, is an idiot. This is boring. I'm not engaged because he's just sitting there. Now in his brain, he might be super excited, but the very introverted people aren't going to show that. That's where it starts, because then assuming the wrong emotion is in play, I react accordingly. So I walk around and I stand in front of him and I try to get him engaged. And I took what was an enjoyable situation and I've turned it into an awkward one. And then maybe conflict happens. The high C and the low C, like we talked about, person says, why are you afraid to make a decision? What's the matter? Don't you believe in this process? Do you not trust me? And they're misinterpreting the feelings and the drivers of the behavior. So understanding those assessments as to why do they behave the way they do helps me not misinterpret what I am likely to think wrong.
Mm. Mm. How about something that's really come to the forefront here in the last couple of years, more so than ever, is the managing remote or hybrid teams.
Mhm.
Is there anything in a DISC profile, like when I'm looking to hire somebody, add somebody on my team, or maybe evaluating somebody that's already on my team? They're saying they can work just as well remote as they do in the office, and I'm feeling, well, I feel like you need to be in the office. How can we figure out what's the truth for it, and is it different for different people, or is as a general rule, nope, they're gonna work better under your roof? Like what's a line on that?
It's a great question to ask. I think it's an important one to ask. There doesn't seem to be any correlations between certain personality types or behavioral types and better, efficiency or effectiveness in a remote or a live scenario.
Yeah.
Video helps a lot with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Zoom and other video mediums allow an individual that might need more face interaction and human interaction, a higher eye. A lower eye is fine with it, and their camera will tend to be off, and they're okay working in somewhat of an isolated situation.
Yeah.
The speed and pace doesn't really come into play with regards to remote, because the higher S and C, it's not going to affect them. D's, again, it's the I's that tend to be somebody that may struggle with more of a remote location because they just want to be around people.
Yeah.
There's not an indicator in the report that we found. We've been remote since day one. My first company, which is still in operations, I started 24 and a half years ago. Intermetrics, been remote globally ever since. So we haven't seen anything that says, oh, this is an individual's profile that would not do well working remote with the advance in technology. But we have people, interestingly enough, we have a department in the customer service, the hiring coaches you talked about.
Yes.
Satiate that need. They'll open a Zoom window and just leave it on. And there's like 6 or 7 of them. And it's just there, like they're working in a cubicle office. They'll get up and go make coffee or go do this or go do that and come sit back down and won't say anything to each other for a while. But if you look on the screen, there's somebody there, and they can just pop up and go, hey, did you guys ever get one of these questions? And it's just almost like, not exactly. But that's the way they
working live. Yeah. Working live in the same room. We do a really, it's a little off topic. We do a very interesting thing. We've been doing it for probably, I can't remember if we did it before all the COVID stuff or if it was because of the COVID. I can't remember, but we've been doing it for, I don't know, 3 or maybe 4 years. I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, what we do is, we're real big into the loan officer spending time prospecting. I'm convinced that the number one reason most loan officers, the average loan officer makes minimum wage or less, right? It's the top 10%. And really the top 5% that are, well into the 6 figures, some of them 7-figure incomes, when other loan officers, which is most, work at minimum wage. That's actually a statistical fact that the most loan officers work at minimum wage or below minimum wage. And we found out that there's really only one difference. It doesn't matter their personality. It doesn't matter their DISC. Doesn't matter anything. What matters is how many hours a day are they prospecting, right? Simple matrix, right? How many hours a day are they in the reactive mode versus the proactive mode? And so what we do is we spend the first 2 hours of the day and we pick 9:30 to 11:30. And we do one East Coast and one West Coast, where we have all these loan officers all sign on to this Zoom, like the giant Brady Bunch thing, at 9:30. And we spend the first 10 minutes. All right, gang, here's our topic for the day that we're going to call. Today's a day that we're going to call everybody in our, not everybody, but we're going to spend 2 hours calling our past database. And remember, here's the script. Here's how you do it. Here's the common objections. Here's the rebuttals. Here's how you turn those conversations to more loans. And now for the next hour and 40 minutes, we all leave our cameras on. We turn our mics off. We turn our speakers down. And we're sitting there, there's like 100 people on this call, and we're all banging the phones getting referrals, getting leads, closing deals. And maybe somebody holds up a sign, just got another one, or, Jay, I'm spanking you today, or, whatever, just, a little smack talk.
Yeah.
And that's been very powerful. And then the last 10 minutes, all right, so what was some of the objections you got? Well, I got this, I got that. Well, Bob, what would you say that? Susan, you're real good at this. What would you say about that? And that's been a real powerful thing, having these giant Zoom, let's call it sales call, where you're just watching other people and just, I don't know, there's just strength in seeing the other people. It's something magical about it. It really is. So anyway, there's a bunny trail.
Well, most loan officers tend to be high DIs. And so I know you said it doesn't really matter which disc, but we do know that there's propensities that are, benefited by that. And you have to be somebody for whom it's not stress. You're not bending that tree limb to make somebody comfortable. And the DIs get excited about making that phone call. They love meeting new people. They love challenges. And one of the reasons those boiler room kind of approaches work is they also tend to be highly economically motivated, but that brings with it a competitiveness. Mm-hmm. It's not mean competitiveness. It's a good spirited competitiveness.
Healthy. Mm-hmm.
But on the football field, let's go get a beer. Yeah. But that creates that environment where you're promoting what they're naturally good at. It's just good sales, right? You can't control the sale. You can only control your activity, as we used to say.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Hey, what would, I look at, so I talk to loan officers all across the country, a lot. And I think that the most common objection I hear of hiring somebody or adding somebody to the team is, oh, that's all right. I'll just do it myself. It'll be faster for me to do it today myself rather than to have somebody come on board. I got to show them how to do it, and I'll just do it myself. It's quicker. What do you say to that person?
They're wrong. I get it. It's the natural tendency, right? My proclivity is the same to say it's just easier for me to do it. You got to take one step back to take 100 steps forward. It's the could-should equation. Could you continue to do that? Yeah. But how much should you be making per hour doing what you're naturally the best person on the team to do? And how much could you pay an individual who loves to do it? There's an old saying I've had for years: find someone who loves to do what you loathe to do. And it's crazy because they'll do it 3 times faster. Yeah, you got to stop. You got to get out of the car, stop, fix it, get them set up, onboard them. But you do it once and then they take off. They do it better than you could. If you're talking about a non-talent, right? Like accounting or the details or setting up the marketing or the website adjustments, I can just go in and use some HTML and make the addition to the web. If you take the time to take that one step backward and set it up, they will move a heck of a lot faster moving forward. And even if it's not about talents, if you're the CEO, if you're the president, you're the loan officer who's in charge of that, what are you doing for a $20 an hour job when you could be doing a $200 an hour job? That's just a silly business decision right there.
Yeah, I've always thought it. I'm a big NASCAR fan. I spent some years in the Carolinas growing up, and just fell in love with it. And I always think of, I get a mental image of a NASCAR driver pulling into the pits, and then he or she jumps out of the car. They go grab the gas tank. They fill the tank. They go grab the front tires, change the front tires, go grab the back tires, change the back tires, jump back in the car and take off again. What's the odds that person's going to place anywhere near the top of that race? Zero.
Yep.
And so while it's effort to go hire somebody, the payoff day after day, week after week, month after month, in my case, year after year, is way more than offsets itself. Hey, Jay, as we kind of wrap things up here, I gave a horrible description of what WiseHire actually does. And so why don't you give us a little breakdown, wisehirefreedom.com. What exactly do you guys do?
Well, like we talked about earlier, and I think you did a great service to describing what it is, right? It's about filling in the bench strength where you don't have the time, the talent, or probably shouldn't be, even if you can do it, right? Yeah. Could do it, should you be doing it? So where we work is you come to us, we've already got expert job templates that are designed by professional writers that know the keywords that the job boards do like and don't like. It's all about SEO, right? Posting to job boards is just like Google Words or Google search. So you can choose a job description there that's expertly written, add your own flair to it if you want, use the template. We'll post it, we'll syndicate it to 100 job boards, right? So Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, you name it, everywhere you want to go. As those candidates come in, we'll gather their resume and give them the battery of assessments. So by the time you see them in your dashboard, it says, this looks like the top administrative assistants across the country or in this industry. This looks like the loan officers who knock it out of the park and are making 6 and 7 figures. That helps you move forward. And then we have an applicant tracking system that allows you to take those candidates through filtered stages to get to the end. Interview guides. If you're not quite sure how to interview, we've got comprehensive interview guides in there that say, hey, here's templates, ask these questions. It's dynamic. It's right there. You can type your notes on it. One of our greatest strengths, I think, is our human hiring coaches, real coaches here in the US, working to help understand. And believe it or not, they're looking at everything behind the scenes. Most people don't know this, but when you post your job, they're looking through it and saying, is there anything that I might recommend? They're monitoring performance, and they'll proactively reach out to you and say, hey, I think you may want to pay attention to this. They're there for questions. It just becomes the outsourced HR experts for the small businesses that don't have a big HR department. And so in all aspects of getting hired. And then once you get to the hiring stage, we're developing all kinds of new onboarding technology. So after you decide I'm going to hire Carl, now there's onboarding tips and steps and job offer templates in there. And there's going to be many, many more things that the entire team is focused on building out to help, whether that's, how do I offer health benefits to these individuals? Can you help with payroll, training, learning management, do performance evaluations? All these things are being fleshed out and built, many of them coming right now. So eventually we'll move well past the hire to beyond the hire as we talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can tell you, for me, talent acquisition is most valuable thing that I do in my day is surrounding myself with the right amount of talent. Finding the right who is way more important than how, because the right who brings the how with them. So I don't have to figure out anything really. I just have to find the right who that already has that skill set. And I tell you, that's been the solution for about 90% of my day. The rest of my day, I'm spending the proactive activity that, in my case, adding talent to my mortgage team, adding talent to my training team. It's without question the single most valuable thing that I do. I used to spend a lot of time doing that, but when I met you guys, I put that. I'm picturing I think in pictures. It's this weird thing. I just found out about within the last year. Everybody doesn't think in pictures. That most people think in words. I didn't know that. I always think in pictures. But I picture this. I'm like a pack mule. I had all this weight on me, and I just took it off me, and frankly put it on you guys. And now I'm zipping up the mountaintop without having to haul all that luggage of which is the weight of putting the right team together. And boy, you put the right team together. Steve Jobs found out you can change the world. You put the right team together.
You're absolutely right. I mean, and I know we're wrapping up here, but I always like to look at the professionals. I'm an analogy guy too. I think visually, but sports, right? When was the last time you saw a championship coach who was also the MVP player and Hall of Famer? So back to your comment about salespeople getting promoted to incompetence by, we'll make you the best sales manager. No, most coaches in most teams, sports teams, were not the star player. They played maybe in college, but maybe they weren't great. And a lot of the best coaches barely played. And then hiring, recruiting, it's find the who. That's their entire success. Yes, how they coach them is also very important, but that only starts with who do they go out and recruit? They put together the team for their strengths and their weaknesses. They know this is the offense, or this is how we're going to run this. and their entire lives focus on making sure, kind of like Jim Collins, is an old book but still a great book, Good to Great. Do I have the right people, right players in the right positions, doing the right things at the right time, on the bus, in his analogy.
Yeah.
That's
Good
what great
stuff, man.
I think do.
Yeah.
It's not about them leading, it's about them crafting the right team for what their unique objective is.
No question. Now, I had somebody ask me not too long ago, Carl, how do you keep their feet to the fire? And I said, brother, I don't. I hire people whose feet are on fire.
Yeah.
Right. It's a whole different thing. So and if you go to wisehirefreedom.com, you can actually, and if you mention the mortgage market, I think they mentioned Mortgage Marketing Animals. I think that it's that, not my name, but either Mortgage Marketing Animals or Carl White, they'll actually show you the ads that I use to hire my processors, my loan partners, my underwriters, my admin people, that over the years, you guys have helped us put together some killer ads. And our listeners, you're welcome to see that the actual help wanted ads that I actually use. And Jay, I have to tell you, man, I have never, and I know you help people other than mortgage companies, right? That you guys are in a lot of different verticals. But I tell you, I've noticed in the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, we'll put an ad, we'll have you guys run an ad for us for some great help. Man, I've never seen so much high quality talent available frankly at a bargain price right now, because a lot of mortgage companies have gone out of business.
Yep.
A lot of loan officers have left the business, and man, there's some great support staff, no fault of their own.
Right.
Frankly, it's the fault of their loan officer by not focusing on production. Right? Maybe they focused on doing their own hiring, perhaps, or that one of 10 different things they were, taking their eye off the ball, went out of business. And man, we'll place an ad. We'll get, this is no exaggeration, we'll get 50, 60, 70 really highly qualified applicants. And we're finding the biggest issue we have these days is, man, we end up with about like maybe 8, 9, 10 killer. I said, Diane, I want them all, right? We can't do that, of course, And our biggest thing is we got these 8 people that, hell, we don't train them. Frankly, they train us. Yeah. I got a good friend of mine, Perry Belcher, taught me this thing probably about 4 or 5 years ago that I just love. He says, Carl, we don't hire people that we tell what to do. We hire people that tell us what to do. And man, that's made all the difference in the world. So wisehirefreedom.com. Jay, anything I should ask you today that I didn't? Do you think we covered it?
No, I think we gave them a head full. So my eyes are probably floating at this point, or ears, I guess.
Yeah. Or they tapped out, 20 minutes ago, and it's just me and you, buddy. And that's okay. So, no, I think this is very helpful. And I think spending time, as I call it, sharpening your sword is just important as the actual swinging of it. So you definitely having the right people on your team. I mean, with the right people, I have found that with the right people, I can screw up and still be okay. With the wrong people, I can be at my best game, but have the wrong people on my team, man, it's no good. I've been there, so it's no good. So good stuff, Jay.
Exactly right.
All right, brother. So again, that's wisehirefreedom.com. Just mentioned Mortgage Marketing Animals, and they'll show you the exact ads that I use. And I can't recommend the service any higher. We've been using it personally, and I just want to clarify, I'm a full paying client, like everybody else, and so and it's a great service, which is why we recommend it. So hey, thanks for listening. Jay and I would ask 2 favors of you. Number one, forward this to 3 of your favorite loan officer friends. I promise you, they'll thank you for it. So will I. Maybe this would be a good one to forward to your branch manager if you're looking for some more help, or your district manager, or the owner of your company. And maybe you're the owner of the company, but really go check it out. And thanks for forwarding this to your friends. The other thing, we just appreciate the reviews, and obviously we like the 5-star reviews, but we just appreciate a good, honest review. And we always appreciate that. And if you do when you do a review, if you'll take a picture of it, the review that you posted, good, bad, or ugly, right? Doesn't matter. Just an honest review. Take a picture of it and send it to us at support@themarketinganimals.com, support@themarketinganimals.com. That I'll send you that's my ethical bribe. where we'll send you a Yeti style mug from the Mortgage Marketing Animals. We'll pay for the shipping. It's one of the bigger Yeti style cups. Really killer thing. I love mine, so it works for us really well. And so that's my ethical bribe for you, just to leave an honest review. So again, that's support@themarketinganimals.com. Tell us what address to mail it to, and we pay for the shipping and everything. So no catch. So I think that's it.
Awesome.
That's a pretty good ethical bribe, right? Isn't that a good ethical? Who would say no to that?
I wouldn't. I like it.
I like it. I mean, you go on there and say, I hate you, Carl, and we'll still send you that Yeti mug, So no, I've never actually had anybody, or they've never shown me one that said that. I can tell you that. So, all right, that's it. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode of Loan Officer Freedom. And we'll talk to you when you call in. Looking forward to seeing your review, and go check out Wise Hire Freedom. Bye, everybody.